Hello and welcome to Everyday Petrolhead. I'm your host Terrence Anderson and welcome to my channel. So I'm holding the camera because I figured we'd have a conversation about something that I think every person should have if you own a car. Things people don't normally think about are how to diagnose your car yourself. It's like, I'm going to go to the mechanic and I'm going to talk to the mechanic about the problems, and they're going to be honest and tell me exactly what's going on. So I think it's important for any car owner to at least own what's called an OBD2. Now, an OBD2 reader is a really simple tool. Most of these are not that expensive. I've taken the name off this one because I don't want everybody to know which one I like, but very simple, very inexpensive tool. This one connects via Bluetooth to my Samsung Galaxy tablet. Now, the Galaxy tablet is pretty simple. Just swipe, and if you see here, I have two of them. I have Dash Command, which I kind of prefer, and I have Torx Pro. Now, Torx is really cool because Torx doesn't necessarily want you to put in the VIN number and be all specific. Dash Command gets very specific. It seems to show things based on the VIN number, and if it's connected to the wrong VIN number, it'll say there's an error and it won't work right. So you want to make sure you select the correct car when you're setting it up. But Torx Pro doesn't seem to care. It's just like I'm plugged in and I'm just going to tell you what's going on. I kind of like the layout in Dash Command a little bit better. I've shown videos on different readers that I like using, and I've always said for my basic information, Dash Command is great. Now, I just launched the program, and it gets to this screen and it starts to load all the information based on my car. Once it's connected, you get a green circle in the middle and you're good to go. Now, Dash Command is cool because it gives you a lot of information in a very sleek layout. RPMs, your speed, your pedal position. That's what this line right here is, pedal position. It took me a while to figure it out. Right now, my throttle is 13% open. And if I press the pedal down more, it tells me how much more it's open, which is great. Boost and vacuum, I can also change that to fuel economy. I tend to leave it on boost and vac. Just because it looks kind of cool. But the other one I like is this, and this actually saved me. The coolant temperature. The car runs at a roughly about 200 degrees, give or take. So if the temperature range goes up, even if the meter, because the needle likes to not move once it's like in the middle, it gets to the middle and then it gets to like right here and then it just stops in the middle. It's just straight up and down. But Dash Command will tell me the actual temperature of the car, so that's great. And of course, the horsepower for when you're nailing it. The car has roughly 300 horsepower. It tells me how much I actually am getting. The fuel economy doesn't always work. It worked on my wife's Ford. It doesn't work exactly right. Like, it's showing you the information, but it's not showing you the range and how much is in the tank. I haven't figured out why that is, but it works on the Ford, so it doesn't really work on this BMW. It might work on others. Even more information for those of you who like information, and also gear position, which gear I'm in at the moment. It does actually shift through the gate over here, showing you which gear you're in. And the last one is, of course, logs and things like that. It's something I don't necessarily want or need right now. I'm not going to have a log of stuff, but that's not why we're here. The reason why you're here, because yes, you have all these different gauges and performances. I've actually used this to showcase the 0 to 60 time on my BMW and showcase how much power we lost, even though the car says it's supposed to be X amount of numbers. What I use this for is the diagnostics, which is something I'm going to be getting into soon. You're able to read your trouble codes, and I have two stored right now. Both of them, I already know what they are. They're related to the engine. This is bank 1 is leaking. There's a lean code for bank 1 and bank 2. And what that most likely is related to is the valve cover gaskets. I'm most likely going to have to replace the valve cover gaskets leaking. I've been dealing with a leak in my engine bay that's been spilling oil pretty much everywhere, and I've been trying to figure out where it's coming from. At first, I thought it was the alternator bracket, and that wasn't the case. It ended up being most likely the valve cover gasket. Apparently, the rubber has gotten a little hard, and it cracks, and then it lets oil leak out. When it starts to leak, it gets bad, and then it gets heavy. So a lot of oil was leaking out, and it's still leaking out. And I fill it up all the time, so I make sure we're good on oil. But I'm going to have to replace it, and I'm not looking forward to it. because if I'm going to go in there and change the valve cover gasket, I might as well change the valve stem seals. So you can only imagine how I'm not looking forward to that. But the good thing about this is, and why you should have an OBD2 reader in your car, is because at least you get the general idea of what's going on. Now, it's not going to tell you the bigger items like, oh, you know, like I have self-leveling inactive because the air suspension on BMWs suck. They're great when they work, but when they break, they suck. So I have other programs that help me figure that out. I pretty much figured out that it's a sensor for the left side. It's about $60. I'm going to buy the sensor and put that on. Hopefully that fixes it. And the steering angle sensor is not allowing the front wheel drive to engage, but I've replaced all the parts for it. I just have to replace the sensor, and unfortunately it is somewhere down inside of the steering column, and I'm not looking forward to that. But that being said, if I do all these changes, it's going to save me money. I have about, I want to say, another $2,000 I need to put into this car to get it up to speed. And in all honesty, I talked to a mechanic and I got a quote, and they were talking with parts and labor, it was going to be $10,000. And that's on the low end. Another one said $15,000. And that was just for everything related. But the beautiful thing about having one of these things is if you have an OBD2 reader, it's easier for you to get the things that are basic. And when I say basic, I mean, I'm talking not in the engine, not in the transmission, just all the stuff that you can somewhat deal with or get an idea of what the problem really is. And that's what this helped me figure out. I was like, oh, this is probably the case. Let me go dig into it a little bit more. Oh, okay. All right. And it's helped me a lot. I mean, indirectly, it actually helped me figure out that I needed to deal with the transfer case. Indirectly, it actually helped me figure out that it wasn't the alternator that was leaking, the alternator bracket. Because anybody who knows how to deal with the alternator bracket knows it's a pain in the butt to actually handle. So I'm glad it's not that. But it's always good to have a way of finding out more knowledge about your vehicle so that when you go to the mechanic, they don't just flat out rip you off. So my advice, if it's your first time getting into diagnosing your vehicle, get a reasonably priced OBD2 reader. They're about $50 for a good one. You can get cheap ones for $20, but I recommend getting the better ones. The better ones are a little bit nicer. And a tablet. Samsung's, these tablets are older and they're like $50. You can get an Amazon Fire, although you'll get all those ads on it, but you have options. Get something that's reasonable. That way you can go to work, figure out what's going on with your vehicle, and then you can go to the mechanic and say, hey, these are the issues I found. My wife took my old Lincoln LS to the mechanic a couple years back, and they were asking her a bunch of random questions, and she went in and was like, yeah, the alternator's there, this is there, that's there, this is where the cabin filter is, this is that, this is that. I just came for an oil change. She laid the law down, and they were just like, oh, okay, we're not ripping this person off. So it's really good to have knowledge of what's going on with your vehicle, and I recommend it for everybody. If you like what I've been talking about, like, share, subscribe, and join me next time with Everyday Petrolhead. I have some cool videos coming up soon. Thanks.